Good morning, traders and investors around the world, and welcome to Thursday's edition of premarketinfo.com, where we prepare you for the most important hour of the day, the first hour. Good morning, Dennis. S&P's trading down slightly here, 2 points. Kind of a quiet overnight action.
Yeah, we were up a little bit there last night, but we're pulling back here just a buck this morning, so it is pretty quiet on this retail sales Thursday.
Okay, recapping the activity, made a Globex high at 13.25 and a quarter. That's just shy of yesterday's high and also the high that we had from last week up at 13.2975. If that 13.25 and a quarter holds as the high of the day, we have a downside target of 13.09 and a quarter. On the downside, Dennis, we're just hovering above this 1317 level, which is our daily swing number. If that holds as the low of the day, we have an upside target of 1333. Gonna find mild resistance back up at the close, 1319.75, and also our midpoint on the session at 1321. Moving on to the Big Ten, Dennis. ExxonMobil made a little double bottom there yesterday. Found a home at 83.38 and 46 Tuesdays and Wednesdays lows. That will be excellent support here to see if ExxonMobil is forming a bottom. Below that level, look out for 82 bucks. Coming back on the upside, we're only 20 cents away from resistance, but major resistance starts level and for sure at the 85.5 level.
Yeah, and I like the 85 number too, just from a psychological perspective for resistance, so I'd keep an eye on that level as well there, Joel.
Okay, moving on to Apple Computer. 3 point range in that yesterday, very strange for Apple Computer. Made a new all-time high at 458.99, supporting Dennis's whole number theory at 459. Settled at 456.14. We're only trading a couple cents away from that. Folks, keep an eye on this whole 456.5 area. The all-time high close was 456.48. Yesterday's close was 456.14. Treading just above yesterday's low at 455.45. Below that, look out. I'm looking for a 2.5 point drop down to 453. And if we approach that all-time high again, 458.99, look for some resistance.
Yeah, the stock just slowly continues its upward march here, Joel. Obviously making a new 52-week high again there yesterday. I would say 460, I think, is a big psychological number. You might find some more resistance up there, so it wouldn't surprise me if we slipped up, made a new 52-week high, by 50 cents or a buck, and then struggled at the 460. Breaks out through the 460. Obviously, it's all air because we've never been up there before.
Okay, IBM, Dennis, have an interesting form. Last three closes in IBM, all in the 192.50 area, 192.50, then 192.60. Also, yesterday's low at 192.41. So as long as we hold there, perhaps we can go back up and test that all-time high. Got close there yesterday, Dennis, 194.81. Couldn't quite get to that 194.90 level.
Yeah, we got right in front of that old 52-week high there, or I guess it's an all-time high at 194.90. So the high-frequency guys put a lid on it here, selling in front of that area at 194.81. If you were lucky enough to short it there, obviously it pulled back a couple of bucks for you, so you had a quick couple of bucks. We get back up in that area, be the second test of it. I think it could hold again here. Eventually it might take out that 195, and then when it starts to make the new all-time highs, all bets are off for the shorts.
Okay, moving on to another big oil company, Chevron Corporation. Starting to find a home here in the 102s. Monday and Tuesday's lows, 102.08 up to 102.65. With the 102.85 close. This thing's starting to feel a little bit heavy down here. Below that 102, I'm looking for the $100 level. Coming back on the upside. Minor resistance at the close. You're really not going to find excellent resistance until you start to get up into the 104 area. which is a buck 40 away from here at this time.
Little bit of an inside day there yesterday with a lower high and a higher low than the previous day. Eventually here, I think a Chevron could break down. I think you're right with that 102 number. We started to trade below 102. It starts to open up to the 100, so you might have a $2 move in there if it can break down through that 102. Above 105, that's where I'd be nervous if I was short the stock.
Okay, Mr. Softy, Dennis, finally sniffed that 30 handle, begrudgingly made its way up to 30.05, peeled back to close at 29.89. Real good support, a little gap up there between 29.70 and 76. So as long as we're still holding that 29.70 area, I'd look for another retest of that 30 level.
Yeah, Joel, this often happens where you get a key number like 30 bucks like that, and what it'll do, it'll trade through it by a few cents, shake out the shorts, and then eventually, and then turn around and start to go down. And we haven't really tanked far off there, but we did move down through that 30 number. So don't think just because it made a new high at 30.05 that 30 number still isn't in play. It's still, there's some people that may have bought that for a breakout, and if they did buy for a breakout, it gets back up to that 30 area, they might become sellers again. So until this thing can get up to the 30, 15, 30, 20 area, I think you still play from the short side. It starts to get significantly above that $30 area though, then all bets are off.
Okay, GE, continue nauseating consolidation pattern between 1850 and 1927. Snuck its head over 19 again yesterday, but not for long. Sold off a little bit harder than the rest of the market, closed right on the low, 1875 low with a 77 close. Dennis, I noticed the last 2 days that this stock has been, at the end of the day, been settling right on the low, very close to the low, then kind of recovering with the rest of the market intraday, but any kind of weakness in the market, GE just hasn't been a real strong stock here. Perhaps we're going to crack this 1870 level and test that almighty 1850.
Yeah, Joel, this stock, we've had such a run up. If we look back here from late November, where this stock was trading, 1475, ran all the way to 19. It's rested here for the last month, so that naturally has to happen if the stock wants to try to move higher. But at the same time, you've got this sideways movement. If we start to break below that 1850, so I'd almost wait still until you see which way it goes to break. It starts to trade down to that 1850 area. What were we going to say, Joel?
No, I mean I'm looking at going back here even to April, and I've seen consolidation periods, and I haven't seen one this long.
It's a long time. It's a month. We've had a month of consolidation here. So the stock is resting, which is natural for it to do, where it tries to figure out whether it wants to go up or wants to go down. I don't think it's really dictated to us which way it really wants to go. Obviously, what the market does is going to have an impact here, as well as GE is highly correlated with the market overall. But if the stock starts to trade below these few lows here, and starts to trade down and break down below that 1850 area, then it opens up to 18 relatively quickly. Again, the number on the upside we've been talking about is 1927, which is the 52-week high. So if it can take that out, then it can start to move higher and eventually try to test that 20 area. But you got to think there's a lot of money been made here in the last month, and if it starts to break down, people will be quick to try to get out of there and keep their profits.
Okay, moving on to our next component, Procter & Gamble mounted a little bit of a rally. Well, it was able to take out Tuesday's high, but ran into problems here at the 63.70 level. That coincides with Monday's high, 63.70 to 80. I expect that to be major resistance. Here's another stock that closed just off the low of the day, 63.19 low with a 63.21. If in fact we do take that out, I'd be looking for Tuesday's low at 62.70.
Yeah, Joel, I've got a trading position on this one, so I'll limit my comments here. But
Okay.
I'd agree with your analysis there.
Okay, strange open in AT&T yesterday. Opened up right into the 5-day high, 29.93. Opened up there and just was met with sellers the whole day. Couldn't quite fill the gap down to 28.54, which was Tuesday's high, but got pretty darn close, Dennis. 29.60 close. I would use that as a swing number. We're actually trading down in the pre-market right now. Below this 24.50 level, Dennis, things open up down to Tuesday's low at 29.23.
This was a ridiculous open yesterday, Joel. The stock opening up 50 cents on a huge buy-in balance order, opening way above where its fair value should be for that low beta stock, and opening into the 30 resistance that we talked about. I actually got short the open as well, 29.93. I covered most of it at 29.75, being the scalper I am, but I was happy to make a quick 18 cents on AT&T. Sometimes those opens give you some decent opportunities. And you know, when you see the stock opening, going to open up 50 cents for AT&T on no news, and into the resistance area, it was a pretty good setup. So hopefully some of our listeners were able to take advantage of that too. It did almost fill that gap. I'd expect some support to find some support in this 29.50 area. So I would keep playing 29.50 from the low side and $30 on the upside.
Okay, moving on to our next component, J&J. Finally got rid of that pesky seller at 66. Took that out early in the session. Rallied up to 66.32, which interestingly was the exact high that we had back in early December. And once it hit that level, Dennis, the sellers came in. The stock sold off, back down through the 66 level. Made a low at 65.62, so you have two lows right in that area. So J&J, good support here at the 65.60 level with the close right there. If it can hold, it can probably go back up, maybe make another run at that 66 level. Below the 65.56 level, things open up pretty nicely down to Monday's low at 65.13.
This is one of those classic tractor beam plays that I've talked about, and we have on the website. If you go under the education tab, we've got a whole presentation on the tractor beam. This is one of those setups where the 66 was a magnet. It was the tractor beam that was pulling the stock price towards it. When it took it out, there's a lot of people saying, oh, it's going to break out here, so they're buying the $66 for the breakout. Trades above there for a little while, but then the breakout almost becomes a fake out, and people are thinking, oh, it's going to really make a run now. It pulls back through the 66, closes down now to shake all those players out too. Like, the market likes everybody to lose. So short term, if the short-term players are short the stock, it tries to naturally move higher. If the short-term players are long the stock, the market tends to move lower. So I think you had a lot of people buying it for the breakout, and that's why the stock all of a sudden takes down. Obviously, the market had a little bit to do with that too, but I mean, we were still up on the S&P yesterday, and this stock was down, pretty significantly at the end of the day, closing very weak. So there could be a few players who are still caught long that. So if it was to get up to the 66 area, I think those traders might try to wiggle out of their longs.
Okay, and moving on to our final component that went ex-dividend, Pfizer. Still held that 21.20 level, good support. You have three consecutive lows from 21.20 to 21.28. So major support there in Pfizer. We're resting right there. If we in fact break down there, I would look for a test of the 21.03, 21.04 level, which were some lows that we had in mid-December. Coming back on the upside, we're a full 20 cents away from Tuesday's close. That'll be minor resistance, but our major resistance will be at 21.53.
It's been a slow breakdown, Joel. We've been predicting this breakdown for the last month. It's taken a long time, but finally it is starting to happen here with the stock trade in the last couple of days through the 21.5. I think the ex-dividend helps it a little bit. I'd use the 21.5 as resistance now. I don't think it gets back up to the 22 area, and I do think the stock can continue its downward drift. So it gets back up at the 21.5 area, 21.40s, maybe you try a short in there. Above 22, all bets are off, but I just don't see it getting there anytime soon. The stock moves too slow. So for your short-term traders, the initial resistance is 21.5 now.
Okay, all right, that's a wrap of the Big Ten. SPU's very quiet here, just hanging out just a little bit below settlement here. So perhaps we'll get a chance to trade some of these stocks off flat on the day. That's our first show this morning. We'll be back with our